Let us pray. Good and gracious God, you have given us a vision for the future. We ask, oh God, that we can connect with that we can hear that we can see that, we can feel that vision that is yours, that we can enter into what Matthew calls the kingdom of heaven, what the other writers call the kingdom of God. So we ask, oh God, that we can enter in this day. So we ask that you can take the hot coals off of your altar and touch these lips of clay, so that the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our Redeemer and our Liberator and our Deliverer. Amen. Okay, so this sermon is about vision and visioning and creating a vision statement. It's about how First Congregational Church will move into her future, how you can move into your future, how you can live into what's next. And you get to decide what's next. We're not jellyfish floating on the ocean somewhere. And so this is important. So I don't know if you want to take notes or certainly pay attention. This may be the most important sermon that I've ever given. Indeed, it is more like a keynote speech. So fasten your seatbelts and enjoy. So visioning. For the record, I was ready to begin the process of visioning back in May, early June, and fully expected to be done by the end of summer. However, I was told to wait till September to begin this work of visioning because y'all are away and scattered to the four winds and on vacation and stuff as expected, because it was summer indeed. And I hope you enjoyed your summer. So here we are. It's better to wait. And so here we are in September, and we're beginning our work on visioning. Who is it that we are, and what's next for First Congregational? So to be sure, we have already begun this work. First of all, one of the works is you began with Sally, is you've enumerated your values. They are on the plaque out there. So that's one thing that we've already begun doing. That's already been accomplished. The council has looked at different ways in which to invite people to the church. We took some extra time and extra meetings to consider those things. And so I still hope that those are in our back of our minds. Another thing that we did is that we asked ourselves last fall, what are the top 10 things that we like about First Congregational Church? And we can bring those things back because that's actually part of beginning how to envision. Who is it that we are going forward? Who is it we are now? How can we take that and then live into that space going forward? So those are three things that we've already done, beginning to begin the process of visioning and envisioning and figuring out what's next for us. One of the things about visioning is that we need to figure out who it is that we are. When doing interim work, there are 5 focus points that a congregation needs to look at. That's 10, 5. Mission. One of them is mission. What mission is about what we are doing. How are we the church in the world? Everyone is supposed to know what our mission statement and have it memorized. Because this way, when the mission board meets, when the ministry meets, when the trustees and the council meet, everyone is rowing the boat in the same direction. So we need to know what our mission statement is. More on that later. Because this is your mission. Whatever it is we figured out what is our mission, that's what our mission is. And this is your purpose and your meaning in life. So ask yourself, what is my meaning and what is my purpose? what is our meaning, and what is our purpose as a community of faith. The second thing, that focus point that we look at, is leadership. Do we have all the right people in the right places? Are the people that do ministry, are they in the ministry position? Or would they rather be the accountant of the congregation, or would they rather be trustees? So make sure that the people are in the right positions, in the right places. That way all the gears are gearing together and working in the right way. A church cannot move forward if it doesn't have the right people in the right places. Also, are we following the Constitution and the bylaws? And are we living into that Constitution and bylaws? The third thing is communication. This is always an issue by which we need to keep our thumb on the pulse. Are we communicating? This isn't a once and done thing. The interim has looked at this, and we did that back in 19 whatever, and then, no, we do this like monthly, whatever, to keep our pulse. Are we talking to each other? Are we listening to each other? And this is because listening is also part of communication. And this is something we always need to be aware at. Do the right issues get to the right people in the right way where they need to be? Or do they stop somewhere? We also need to look at our website and Facebook and our newsletter, constantly looking at that. And then paying attention to those issues, not just Facebook, but whatever social media we decide to use. The fifth, the fourth focus point is our history and our heritage. Where did we come from? What were your origins and where have you been? We're pretty good at that, but I like to remind us that we began as a Bible study. Before we were a church, we brought people into community as a Bible study. In good old-fashioned congregational tradition, we took the word and back in 1893, we took the word seriously, and we came together and created community, and we weren't quite church yet. We started off as a Bible study. And then the fifth thing, usually we wait till the end to do this, is visioning. Visioning is about becoming who we are. We already are somebody, and visioning is how to become that person, that entity. If we don't know who we are, how will we know what to do? Some might think that this might be intuitive, and we just kind of go along with the flow. But creating a vision statement puts words on our flesh and our bones and on that intuition. Our vision is to be, an example of a vision statement would be, our vision is to be a justice and peace church, embracing and welcoming a diverse world, or the diversity of the world. That's just an example of a mission statement. My experience is that the work of interim ministry comes to a screeching halt when it comes to visioning, because there's several problems with visioning. We don't know how to plan for the future because we don't know who we are. Visioning requires that we are introspective enough to know who it is that we are, so that we can and are able to live into that space. We have a vision. How do we live into that vision? How can we have a vision if we don't know who we are? So, for example, if I have a list of 10 goals, do those 10 goals reflect who I am? At the heart of visioning, ask who it is that you are. Who am I? So that you can become who you already are. allow me to take a page out of my own playbook. From a recent blog from Reverend Stephen Onsman, was on Facebook, and he was the one who was here at my installation a year ago. And he said in his blog on Facebook, in a recent Facebook conversation that included people who don't hate people who are trans and people who don't understand them, my friend, the Reverend Barbara Peranto, made a simple yet eloquent response. She wrote, "We don't become trans, we are trans." And then he writes, "That made me stop in my tracks." While this might be an insight into the trans experience, my point here is that we cannot be someone we are not. That space is already occupied by someone else who already knows who they are. So we need to find our space. You cannot, for example, be an accountant if your passion is oceanic biology. We can and only become who we already are. Our call is to discover your life force, your chi, your light, that je ne sais quoi that burns brightly inside you to make it who it is that you already are. Who is that? And we are called to live into that space, and you got to know who you are in order to set your goals, to become who you already are. Another problem is that when a congregation is to the point of creating a vision statement, we are gripped and frozen by fear. We are up against the future, and we don't know what to do. What do we do? And I can't go past this glass thing here, and up against the future. As if we're pressed against the sliding glass door, and we don't know how to open it and enter into the great big space, the great big outdoors that awaits us. When writing either a mission statement, and we're going to have to write a mission statement, and a vision statement, the statements need to be short, concise, to the point, and motivational. A mission statement is about doing. A vision statement is about becoming. So ask yourself what it is we are already doing. People are good at doing. So an example of a mission statement, this comes from the Church of the Nativity, United Church of Christ in Buffalo, New York. We are a welcoming, nurturing, empowering community of faith, carrying Christ's love, justice, and peace to our community and world. That's a mission. That's their mission statement. Vision, on the other hand, is about becoming. To know who you shall become requires that you know who you already are. And that can change from over time, from generation to generation to generation. So, for example, my mom and dad, actually, believe it or not, used to live in Seattle. In their younger days, they were in their 20s when they were there. In fact, I was conceived in Seattle. And while they lived there, they used to go camping a lot. And the thing is that the mom I knew would never go camping. For mom, it was like, as Joan Rivers once said, roughing it means staying in a hotel without room service. Right? Or camping is you can see the woods from the hotel room. The point here is that mom and dad no longer did camping because it was no longer who they were. So the thing is, if you don't know who you are, you won't know what to do. Visioning requires that we do some introspection. Who are we? Who is First Congregational Church? We can do until the cows come home. We're good at that. Everyone's good at doing. We like doing. But we don't know how to introspect. We don't know how to connect with that being that we are and understand all the little nuances that make us be who it is that we are. And this And the thing is most people don't even want to. We don't even want to know who we are. And this was made clear when I floated the idea of discovering personality through the Enneagram. It was like floating a lead balloon. Discovering who you are can be both a visceral and a spiritual experience, both at the same time. And for most people, a majority of people could care less about who they are and what makes them tick and what their deepest interests are. Most people just do without knowing. And so they get frustrated and they don't know how to be because they don't know who they are. Most people float through life doing what they think they're supposed to do without any consideration about who they really are. A first world luxury, perhaps? Well, that's where we are. I want to say this about Christianity as a whole, and in particular the United Church of Christ and the traditions that have gotten us here. There are some who come to Christianity seeking transcendence, a spirituality that takes us beyond the dust and the turmoil of life and lifts us up somehow. And there's part of that. However, because I think a lot of people will be disappointed because at the core of Christianity is not transcendence, but rather and instead incarnation. As in, God shares our humanity through Christ, that through Christ, God shares my humanity, and in return, I reflect God's divinity. And that is transcendence. That spiritual transcendence we seek is already at the very core of who we are, at the very core of our being. To discover that spiritual divine presence, we are asked to explore who it is that we already are. The Bible, for example, is not a guidebook, believe it or not. It is not a book of rules and laws. It is not a how-to book. The Bible is the story of God and God's faithful relationship with the people who constantly choose unfaithfulness. We don't have to work for God's presence. We simply need to be aware of God's presence, that God's presence is already here, and in each of us and within all of us together. Here and now at the very core, the very heart that continues to beat at the center of our being and our life together. The work of visioning requires we understand the very nature of who First Congregational Church is. And this is why visioning is so very difficult and why it's so very hard to get off the starting blocks when we come to the fifth focus point of visioning. Another problem with visioning for most congregations is that we try to envision the future by looking in the rear view mirror and not through the windshield. We like to look backwards. We remember and reminisce about the good old days, about Pastor so-and-so. We get all nostalgic about the way the size the choir used to be. We get all nostalgic about when the organ used to work, when we had 2 services and when we had gobs of kids in the Sunday school, an adult class, and how we built low-cost housing in Marin County. All good stuff, but that's looking in the mirror. We are in a different time and a different place. We are in this time and this place, and it's different. Also, in order to move forward, we need to ask the question that our previous associate conference minister, Daniel Ross Jones, asked at one of our annual gatherings not too long ago. He asked, what is it you need to give up to be the church you envision to be? What do we need to leave on the side of the road that has been wonderful for us, but now we need to leave on the side of the road to continue our journey? What do we need to leave behind that is keeping you from becoming the authentic church that you are dreaming of? And I invite you to dream of what it means to be an authentic church. And I hope that question bugs you until it is answered. Then visioning. Most of you are or have been in careers where there is a certain formula or protocol or a plan to follow, a certain pre-prescribed way to do your job. If something is broken, we find the instructions on a YouTube or we go to a YouTube video and then we watch that several times, and then 5 hours later, ta-da, fixed. When we envision our future, when we try to figure things out, and and even what to do, what's next, and what to do, and what is our vision, and how to be the church, there is no magic formula. There is no silver bullet. There is no wand. There is no pre-prescribed protocol. There's no YouTube video we can watch. For some, this may sound very distressing. There is no pastor that has a magic wand who can come into a church, wave the wand, and say, this is how we enter into the future. No pastor can come and tell you what to do. If a pastor comes in here and tells you what to do, well, now here's the pastor out here, and the church is way back here. We need to walk this walk together. You can't do if you don't know who you are. Our vision grows and evolves organically out of our authentic self. Our vision requires that we know who our self is. About 2 weeks ago, I was on a Zoom meeting facilitated by Reverend Chuck Kelsey at St. John's United Church of Christ in San Francisco. And the Zoom call is once a month and is open to everyone. Karen and Lynn were both there. And a month before, in August, when I was on vacation, they were the only lay people who were there. And I must say that made my pastoral heart proud. Thank you. So they were there. But anyway, there are two pastors there with extensive experience and success in church growth. Both Reverend Kelsey and Reverend Jim Matulski, who is down at Belmont Redwood now. Well, guess what? These two very experienced pastors are asking the very same questions each and every one of us are asking. How do we enter into the future, and how do we grow? Seasoned pastors with experience and success are asking what each of us are asking. There is no magic wand, there is no silver bullet, and there is no secret formula. Even as we prepare to look at the book Real Good Church by the Reverend Molly Basquette, who is in Berkeley, at the UCC Church in Berkeley, it's a great how-to book. There are things in there that we need to be doing, but it doesn't tell you how to be who you are so that you can be the church. Which one of these things that Molly Basquette has to offer about church growth and how to be a real good church, which one of those is going to work? Which one's going to fit? Which one strikes our fancy? When you envision your future, you are asked, how can we be the church? How can you be when we don't know who we are? Who am I? It's a really existential question, and it is at the heart of our human existence. To begin visioning, we must ask the Roger Daltrey's musical question, who are you? That work needs to be done. Each of us has a light. Each of us has a chi, a life force, a je ne sais quoi that shines from the inside out, and I can see that shining light in most of you. Leopards have their own spots. A leopard can only be a leopard. It cannot be a goat. It cannot be a giraffe. It cannot be a wolf. That's already taken. A leopard is a leopard. They cannot change their spots. They can be nothing other than who they are. And most humans are disconnected from knowing who they are. Our sojourn is to discover who it is we already are. How is it that God has knit and woven us together into such a fabulous tapestry? Do we even know that we are such a fabulous tapestry? I return to one of my original questions that I've been asking shortly after I arrived. How do we get people to come and participate in First Congregational Church? I'm not asking how we get people to sit in the sanctuary. I'm not asking how to create a one-time event where people come. I'm not asking how we can best rent out our space. I'm asking, who are we and what do we do that we can invite people in? Not to, into our circle, into this community that we call First Congregational Church. Who is it that we are that causes us to do the things we do? That we can invite others to share and to participate. We have a wonderful thing. Let's invite them. What is that wonderful thing? Invite them to be with us. If you press me, Barbara, there must be something. My answer is that we have a messaging and a marketing problem. People don't know we're here. What is our message? What are we marketing? And what are we inviting people to? And how do we get that? And where do we get that message out? Right now, we have nothing. We have nothing to invite people to other than worship. Fabulous worship that it is. While worship services are the heart and the hub of our life together, people are often connected by small groups. A Bible study for one, and the choir for another, or some sort of affinity group. We used to have men's group, women's group. We can have LGBT group. Whatever that is, going forward, we invite people into our space. And we do not invite people to a committee. A committee is not a small group to invite people to. I know. The Board of Mission is onto something, though. We're coming up with, Karen's done some work on this, is that we're coming up with a way that we can volunteer to serve serve food at Jonathan's place. It's hands-on ministry. It's exactly what we need to be doing. So fabulous work by the Board of Missions. Thank you for putting that together. In a process of creating this sermon, I also discovered we do not have a mission statement. So for you, the next several months, your mission, should you choose to accept it, before it all burns up, should you choose to accept it, is to create a short and concise one-sentence mission statement and a short and concise one-sentence vision statement. Because these are our doorways into our future. And as we do that process, we discover who it is and what we want to do. And if we look at Real Good Church, it becomes organic and evolves, and we become, and we know who we are, and it's all part of the same process. And this is our doorway into the future about becoming who FCC is in her next chapter. Praise be to God. Amen.